Hello everyone, great to have you back in another episode of the OMS Masterclass. Before we begin episode 4, let's do a quick recap of episode 3. In the last episode, we understood what Manhattan Active Omni or MAO is and how it helps retailers manage the complete order life cycle. Now, in this episode 4, imagine this. You have joined a new MAO project. During your first KT session, someone opens an architecture diagram. Suddenly you start seeing names like ERP, RMS, WMS, GTN, MuleSoft, payment systems, and a few more. At this point, you might be thinking, I thought I joined an MAO project. Then why are there so many applications and what exactly is MAO doing? That actually a very common question. So in this episode, we are going to understand where MAO fits, why the systems are needed, and how they all work together in a real retail environment. We are not going to do a deep dive into each system today because each one deserves its own episode. For now, let's just understand the complete picture. So let's look at the complete picture now. Now, one question might come to your mind. If MAO is managing the complete order life cycle, then why do we even need all these other applications? That's a very common question, especially when you are new to MAO. Think about it this way. Can one person in a company handle finance, HR department, testing, support, and operations all by themselves? Probably not, right? It's kind of same here. Every application has its own responsibility. For example, one application manages products, another manages inventory, another handles warehouse operations, and another takes care of payments. Now, one interesting thing is MAO doesn't replace this application. Instead, it works with them and coordinates the complete order journey. That's why in almost every MAO project you will hear names like ERP, RMS, WMS, GTN, and many more. If these names are new to you, don't worry. We are gonna understand each one in the upcoming episodes. For now, just remember one simple thing. MAO is the application that brings all these systems together to complete one customer order. So, this is what a real retail ecosystem looks like. At first, it might look like there are a lot of applications connected together, but once you understand the flow, it actually becomes pretty simple. Let's start from the left. These are the front end channels where customers interact with the business, like the website, mobile app, marketplace, and POS, which stands for point of sale. Whenever a customer places an order through any of these channels, that request reaches to MAO. And this is where MAO becomes the decision maker. Instead of working in isolation, MAO communicates with different enterprise systems whenever it needs information or has to perform an action. On the right, you can see systems like ERP, RMS, WMS, and GTN. Each of these has a different responsibility, and together they help complete the customer's order successfully. At the bottom, you can see supporting services like payments, vendor systems, and notifications. These take care of payment processing, vendor communication, and customer updates. So, if you look at the complete flow, a customer places an order through any sales channel. The request reaches MAO. MAO talks to the required systems and services, makes the right business decisions, and moves the order to the next stage. You can think of MAO as the central brain that connects all these applications and keeps the entire order journey running smoothly. Now let's start with the customer side. Before MAO can process an order, the order has to come from somewhere, right? These are the most common channels through which customers place their orders. First, we have the website where customers shop using their laptop or desktop. Next is the mobile app where orders are placed through the retailer's mobile application. Then we have marketplaces like Amazon, Flipkart, or Myntra, where retailers sell their products through third party platforms. And finally, there is POS, point of sale, which represents orders placed directly in a physical store. Even though customers are ordering through different channels, one interesting thing is every order eventually reaches MAO for processing. So, no matter where the order starts, MAO becomes the common platform that manages it consistently. That's why businesses can provide the same order experience across every sales channel. So, now let's talk about the systems that actually work behind MAO. One common misconception is that MAO does everything, but that's actually not how it works. MAO is kinda like the brain. It makes the business decisions, but it relies on different enterprise systems to get the job done. Let's quickly look at them. First, we have ERP, which stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. This is where core business information is maintained, like product data, finance, suppliers, and other master data. Next is RMS, the Retail Management System. This mainly handles retail inventory, merchandising, and store related information. Then we have WMS or Warehouse Management System. Once MAO decides where an order should be fulfilled from, WMS takes over and executes the warehouse operations like picking, packing, and shipping. Next is GTN, which stands for Global Transportation Network. After the shipment leaves the warehouse, GTN helps manage transportation and tracks the movement of shipments. And finally, we have GXO Logistics. GXO is a third party logistics. Many retailers work with logistics partners like GXO to operate warehouses and handle fulfillment. So, if you look at the complete picture, MAO doesn't replace these systems. It simply communicates with them, gets the required information, makes the right business decisions, and coordinates the complete order journey. That's why in a real MAO project, you'll almost always see integrations with multiple enterprise applications. Now, apart from the core enterprise systems, there are a few supporting services that MAO works with almost every day. These may not look like big applications, but they're actually very important for processing an order correctly. Let's quickly go through them. First is payments. So whenever a customer places an order, MEO works with the payment service to validate or authorize the payment before moving the order forward. Next is pricing. This helps calculate the correct selling price based on the product, offers, or promotions available at that moment. Then comes tax. Different locations can have different tax rules. So this service calculates the applicable tax for every order. After that, we have charges. Things like shipping charges, handling charges, or any additional fees are calculated here before the final order total is prepared. And finally, there is email. Once everything is successful, this service sends order confirmations and important updates to the customer. So, if you notice, these services don't decide what should happen. They simply provide the information or perform the action whenever MEO needs them. That's what makes the entire order journey smooth and accurate. Now let's look at one more important flow in the retail ecosystem. Sometimes, the inventory you need isn't already available inside the retailer's network. That's where vendors come into the picture. A vendor is simply the supplier who provides products to the retailer. Whenever inventory needs to be replenished, a purchase order or PO is created. This tells the vendor what products need to be supplied and in what quantity. Once the products are ready, they can be sent to different destinations. For example, they might go to a distribution center DC, which stores inventory before supplying stores, or they can be shipped direct to customer. which is commonly called D2C. Another option is a home delivery center or HDC, which is mainly used to fulfill customer home deliveries. Now, one interesting thing is how MAO decides whether inventory should go to a DC, D2C or an HDC is actually a much bigger topic. So we are gonna save that for our dedicated sourcing episode because that's where all the routing logic becomes really interesting. For now, just remember this. Purchase orders bring inventory into the retail network and MAO works with that inventory to fulfill customers' order efficiently. So far, we have seen that MAO works with a lot of different systems. Now the next question is, how do all these systems actually talk to each other? That's where the integration layer comes in. Whenever information comes to MAO, it's called an inbound message. For example, inventory updates, order updates, or customer details coming from another application. And whenever MAO sends information to another system, it's called an outbound message. For example, sending a fulfillment request to WMS or sending order updates to another application. Now, in many retail implementations, this communication is handled by MuleSoft. You can think of MuleSoft as the middle layer between MAO and all the other applications. Instead of every system connecting directly to each other, MuleSoft receives the information, transforms it if needed, and sends it to the right destination. That's why it's called an integration platform. You will hear terms like inbound messages, outbound messages, and MuleSoft almost every day in an MAO project. Later in this masterclass, we will see actual message flows and API examples. But after this slide, you should already know what these terms mean and why they are used. Alright, now let's put everything together. Imagine a customer places an order on a website or mobile app or marketplace or even at a store through POS. That order reaches MAO and this is where all the decision making happens. MAO checks inventory, apply business rules and decides the best way to fulfill the order. From there, MAO talks to different systems depending on what is needed. If inventory information is required, it works with RMS. If the order needs to be picked and packed, it sends the request to WMS. If transportation planning is involved, GTN comes into the picture. And if a third party warehouse is fulfilling the order, MAO coordinates with GXO. At the same time, supporting services like payments, pricing, tax, charges, and email notifications keep working in the background to complete the order. Finally, once everything is processed, the order reaches the customer. So, this is the complete high level journey of an order. In the next few episodes, we are going to take each part of this flow and understand what actually happens behind the scenes one step at a time. Now, let's connect everything we have covered into one complete picture. This is what a high-level MAO architecture looks like in a typical retail implementation. It might look a little complex at first, but if you notice, every section here is something we have already discussed. A customer can place an order through the website, mobile app, marketplace, or POS. No matter where the order comes from, it eventually reaches MAO. This is where all the business decisions happen. Now, from here, MAO starts communicating with different systems based on what the order needs. You will notice the ERP, RMS, and WMS are directly connected to MAO. That's because MAO interacts with these systems very frequently during order processing. Now, if you look at the bottom, you will see GTN and GXO. They are shown separately because they usually come into the picture during the logistics and fulfillment part of the order journey. So they are connected through the integration layer. You will also see supporting services like payments, pricing, tax, charges, email, and vendor systems. These don't make business decisions, but they provide the services MAO needs while processing an order. And finally, all these systems exchange information through the integration layer, where inbound messages, outbound messages, and MuleSoft help everything communicate smoothly. So, this diagram isn't something you need to memorize. The idea is to understand how all these systems fit together and how MAO acts as the central decision engine connecting the entire retail ecosystem. Before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap of what we have learned today. First, MAO is the central decision engine. It coordinates the entire retail ecosystem by deciding what should happen next, while the other systems handle the execution. Second is every system has its own responsibility, whether it's ERP, RMS, WMS, GTN, or any supporting service. Each one has a specific role in the overall order journey. Third is all these systems work together. They don't operate independently. MAO connects them so the entire order lifecycle runs as one complete process. And finally, integrations make all of this possible. APIs, inbound and outbound messages, and platforms like MuleSoft help these applications exchange information seamlessly. So, if you understand these 4 points, you have already built a strong foundation for understanding Manhattan Active Omni architecture. And that's a wrap for today's episode. In the next episode, we are going to explore MAO modules and understand what each module actually does inside Manhattan Active Omni. So, if you found this video helpful, hit that like button, share it with your teammates, and subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming episodes. Thanks for watching. See you in the next episode.